Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Monte Belmonte.
And I'm Khalees Smith.
Later in the show, we'll hear about the newborn kids music scene at the Parlor Room in Northampton. It's not just for newborn kids.
It's definitely, it's almost certainly not for newborn.
Yeah, but the scene is kind of newborn.
Yes.
Totally not for babies.
And do you feel bad or do you feel badly? Hopefully neither, but which is the more correct way to say it? We'll ask Greenfield's Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster in Springfield.
We're joined right now in the studio by NEPM senior reporter Nancy Cohen, who debuted a news story that I heard on the drive here this morning during our parts of Morning Edition. The headline at NEPM.org reads, "A bittersweet goodbye. 137 orphaned, abandoned black bears returning to the wild." Nancy Cohen will bear all about what she's learned about these bears.
There's a dad joke.
I have to do it.
I know.
There's so many bear jokes that we could make right here, but this story begins with this particular bear rehab facility, Nancy, a year ago. Tell us the story of Alma.
Alma. Well, what happened was, and you're going to hear this because we're going to play it, a mother bear was crossing the road in Greenfield with her cubs. She was killed. All the cubs were killed except one. And now we'll just hear what happened.
That's the sound of a bear crying. So that's just to set the tone of how sad it is that this entire bear's family has been killed.
Oh, my God.
But now let's go to the clip where
Jesus Christ, my heart.
the police officer is talking about what happened in the aftermath of that very, very sad bear.
A fairly loud screeching noise because the cub was trying to call out for its mother.
Legoy spotted the only surviving cub, about the size of a football, scuttling up a tree. He was afraid if he left it, it would have died too.
It's such a small animal, you feel for it and you don't want it to be abandoned. The cub would have tried to go back across the road to try and find its mother based on scent, and it would have just gotten hit as well.
As the cub hugged the tree trunk, the police reached out with a branch. She latched on. And as an outdoorsy kind of guy who has hunted bears, Legoy knew what to do.
We just picked it up like you would a kitten, right by the back of its neck, and got it right inside of the cruiser.
And that, Nancy Cohen, is who?
That was Greenfield police officer Brandon Legoy. He and his colleague Justin Purrington responded to a call from the driver and rescued this cub. And the cub was scuttling up the tree. And these two officers are what they call outdoorsy. I think one of them actually, Brandon said one of them said he hunted bears.
Not this particular one.
Not this particular.
At this time, yeah.
No, they decided to save it, to rescue it. He reached out a branch. The bear latched on, and as he said, he grabbed it like on the back of the neck, like a kitten, and brought it back to the Greenfield police department.
If you're not a police officer, don't try that.
No.
Yeah, even if you think you're good with wildlife, you could get in big trouble for transporting animals in this way.
Yes.
So this bear, which now has a name.
Alma.
Yes. Went to where?
Well, first she went to the Tufts Wildlife Clinic, Tufts Veterinarian School Wildlife Clinic in Grafton, Mass. And then from there, she went up to the Killam Bear Center, named for Ben Killam, who developed a method of raising orphaned and abandoned bear cubs so that they can return to the wild.
That's just standard practice for when you find small baby animals or at least baby bear cubs. Cubs aren't babies. Mm-hmm. That's the usual way that they're dealt with.
Actually, you're actually bringing up an important point, which is state wildlife experts, wildlife biologists would tell the public in general, public if you're listening, if you see a baby animal in the woods, don't assume that the mother is gone.
Yes.
Do not pick it up and try to rescue it. The mother is probably nearby.
And so this baby that was the lone survivor of this accident in Greenfield last year was given a name by the Killams, right? Is that who names the bears?
Well, let's see. Ben Killam, who is the guy who started all this, about 30 years ago got his first bear cubs from the Vermont State Wildlife Agency, and he started developing this method. It's a method that I followed in another wildlife rehabilitator many, many years ago. Somebody named Sally Beckwith, who was raising river otters, which was very cool for me to see.
Totally.
And also coyotes eventually, which was controversial. People don't always like coyotes. But yeah, her river otter was called What, which sounded like the noise that it made when it vocalized. But the method involves having one person, basically one person, spend time with the bear or the animal, so that it doesn't become accustomed to people and think that all people are okay.
So there's a clip that we have, I think, about that, too, that talked about your interaction a little bit with the bears. And, maybe it's a different clip, but there is a method, right?
Yes, there is a method. But let me tell you a little bit more, and then we'll play the clip. I'll talk us into that clip, which is Ethan Killam is the nephew of Ben Killam. Ben's been doing this for 30 years. Ethan just started about a year or so ago. I believe this is his first release that happened recently. He raised Alma. Alma was brought up there. He raised her. I came up there last spring, and in what was called the cub barn, there were 3 female cubs, Alma, Billy, and Willa. And just a little side thing, Ethan has an interesting way of naming bears. Alma didn't follow his method. He didn't want to call her Greenfield, but he does name them according to where they came from.
Maybe it was his alma mater, Greenfield Community College.
Maybe. That's good. But there was, so this was Willa and Billy, and there was another named Fitz that came together from Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire. So who I met was Billy, Willa, Alma, 3 female cubs, and I think we now have a piece of tape that will lead to them.
You don't initiate play or anything with them, but if they want to play with you, you can respond. You got to remember that young animals are young animals.
And many of these young animals, like Alma, were present when their mothers were killed.
They have to have a nurturing environment. You don't shut them off of all of that. What is up here? What is up?
Back in the cub barn, Willa is still wary of me. Ethan calms her with a soft voice. Alma is making herself scarce. All 3 cubs are tucked onto a shelf high off the ground. I climb a ladder to get my microphone closer. Hi, you want to smell me? Oh, it's licking me. Is that okay? Yeah. Billy is using her keen sense of smell to check me out. Oh, took a little bite. I think I'll go down. Not a bite, just kind of smelling with teeth. Ethan and Ben Killam say there's no risk that interacting with me briefly or them will turn these cubs into animals who trust all people.
Bears trust individuals. They don't trust broadly. Bears trust each other as individuals. They trust humans as individuals. Just because she trusts me doesn't mean she'll trust the guy standing next to me.
That was a piece of the reportage of the bravest reporter in the NEPM news department, senior reporter Nancy Cohen, who was virtually bitten, let's say, like bumped with teeth by a bear.
Yet another way that bears are more advanced than we are. They can smell with teeth.
Yeah, right.
They navigate with their nose and their mouths. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that was last year, and that was with Alma, who we talked about, who was from Greenfield. And then just today, there was the news story that was released, and you can check it out at NEPM.org in its entirety, raising an orphaned cub from Greenfield so it can return to a bear's world. Oh, that was that's the 2002 one. This was the bittersweet goodbye. 137 orphaned, abandoned black bears returning to the wild. You went there to see Alma again, but you didn't get to follow Alma. Tell us a little bit about what happened when you went to go report at this rehabilitation center in Vermont.
Right, in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire,
New
okay,
Hampshire,
yeah.
So I got up there. There's a lot of people there. There's a lot going on. And they're trying to release, I think, about 8 bears that day. Mm-hmm. They do a few at a time. And Ethan, who is the only one that the bears really trust, needs to give them some anesthesia so that they can be moved. They get a small ear tag, very small, very discreet, and they're checked out by a veterinarian and put in some kind of enclosure and transported to where they're going to be released. I was told, we don't know if Alma's going to go or not, but you can come up and try. So when you're in the field as a reporter, you often have to make a decision on the spot. Nobody's telling you what to do. And I'm waiting for Alma. I want to do the story of Alma's release. Well, Alma apparently didn't follow Ethan, and so, but another bear did that I had met at that same time when I first met Alma. His name is Dutch. He's a male bear. He was found in Tolland, Massachusetts. He was found without his mother. And just to underscore this, they didn't just take this bear when they saw that he was without his mother. They made sure that they gave him a lot of time without his mother before they rescued him and brought him up. Mm-hmm. Massachusetts sent up 2 bears this year, Alma and Dutch.
And you know them both.
I do know them both. And so when these bears were brought down to be tagged and weighed, etc., I learned that one of them was Dutch, and I went, "Oh, Dutch! Wow!" But I'm waiting for Alma, and waiting. In the meanwhile, Dutch has been loaded into the transport system into the truck, and he's left. And I have to make a decision: do I go after Dutch, follow him into the wild, or do I wait for Alma? I made the decision to get in the car and drive as fast as I could, and catch up with Dutch, which is what I did.
And you can hear the whole story about Dutch being released from the NEPM website, nepm.org.
I feel like there's like way more people involved in the release than in almost any other step of this. Like you've got like maybe one or like a small team of people who find the bear. You bring them to veterinarians and then to the enclosure where they'll essentially be raised till they're stable enough to put into wildlife. But then when the release happens, it sounds like there's a lot of people and a lot happening.
I think it's also an opportunity for wildlife biologists from state agencies to learn to handle bears. You don't get to do that all the time. Uh-huh. So I think that it's also a learning experience. But they're being very careful with these animals, and they're big animals now. They're considered subadults.
Right.
So
when you first saw them, they were the size of a 2-liter soda bottle, right? About the same weight.
The size of a bag of flour.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe.
You missed this. This was a big discussion with my editor about how I wanted to metaphorically describe it, and I wanted to say a 5-pound bag of sugar, but we went with 5 pounds. He could fit in a shoebox.
And now when they're being released, they're, what did you say, 140 pounds or something like that?
He was 143.
Yeah, wow. So that's big. So
it's actual size of a teenager.
Right. And the interesting thing is that, 137 bears is in the headline, but 2 of them are from Massachusetts, and both from Western Massachusetts.
That's right.
And then the vast majority of them from 2 other states that are working with this rehabilitation center because they believe in this method. How do they then reintegrate after they've essentially been surrogate mothered by a human being? Do they reintegrate as a bear in the wild?
Yeah. So the way that they're raised, the way most of them were raised, because they got so many, they had to sort of change their method this year. They spend time in the woods in an 11-acre enclosure. They do get some food from Ethan, but they learn because they teach each other, they explore, they learn by observation, they learn with their sense of smell, they learn how to eat in the wild. And so they know how to do this. Ben Killam, the man who's developed this method, believes that when they're released, they will meet other wild bears, they will make friends, and they will observe and learn. And in a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, they will mate for the first time. So it's you can get a little quelling just to see the baby bears go off.
It's good for my Alma. Speaking of, you weren't able to follow Alma. You followed Dutch.
Yes.
Do you know what has now happened to Alma? Has Alma been released into the wild?
She has.
Yes.
Can you follow her through tagging? Like I'm presuming she's nope.
It's not that kind of tag.
It's not like my Sharktivity app for Cape Cod?
No, they're not doing that. They're not doing that. Exactly.
Good thing, because I think people are hunters and they would use that to different needs.
No. But I was a little worried. I'll just say this. I was a little worried, a little sad when Dutch went off, because he has spent the past year with dozens and dozens and dozens of bears in close proximity, and he was by himself, and I really felt bad for him. But Ben Killam says he will meet wild bears and make friends.
Oh.
Yeah, that's great. I have the utmost faith in this system. It sounds so loving and caring.
That's right. Do we want to play any of that? Do we have time?
Oh, yeah. Let's play the clip of Dutch waking up and being released into the wild.
Dutch and 2 other bears are waking up. They're loaded into a kind of bear train. 3 cages, each holding 1 bear, pulled on a trailer behind a truck that's heading to Vermont. Each one is sitting up.
That's a sight going down the road.
There's no big, tearful goodbyes for Dutch, even from Ethan Killam, who raised the cub since he was just a few months old.
Oh, he was just easygoing, lovable, gentle, soft-spoken. It's always bittersweet. You know, you can't keep them, you don't want to keep them, but also you've formed some sort of relationship. And this year, there's so many of them that it's a lot of relationships to say goodbye to in a short amount of time.
It's bumpy, but I think they'll be okay.
That's Vermont wildlife specialist Tony Smith driving Dutch and 2 other bears down an old logging road in a 10,000-acre state wildlife management area about an hour from the Killam Bear Center. It has open fields with lots of greens to eat, mixed forests with fragrant fir trees, and a few discreet brambly breaks in the forest cut by state workers, says Smith.
You can see all the blackberries there, and then there's elderberries, just a lot of berries that you see growing in these little teeny openings that the bears like.
Smith says a place like this gives the bears their best shot away from people, except, of course, during the bear hunting season, which starts in September. He chooses a place to release each bear on its own, a distance from each other on the edge of the woods. Now, it's Dutch's turn.
There's a nice shaded spot, so I think we'll try to open this door. He'll be able to turn around and go this way.
Once the cage opens, Dutch leans out, panting a bit, taking his time to drop to the ground. He looks over his shoulder, back at us, maybe a little unsure, before heading just into the woods. Often the bears will take a nap in the shade before exploring their new home. Ben Killam says they meet other bears, wild ones, and make friends and learn from them. It'll be a few years before they mate.
So cute. Just like dropping your freshman off at high school.
Oh, I'm going to drop my son off at college to the beginning of August, so don't put it that way.
Yeah, but they're like an adult now. It's a little bit different.
I've also tagged him behind his ear, and he does not know that.
Except everybody knows now.
Oh.
Why are there so many cubs being encountered this year? Like, what about the current population of bears in Massachusetts is making this interaction happen?
Yeah, there were, this place in New Hampshire raised 137 bears, and most of them came from New Hampshire and Vermont, a few from Connecticut, only 2 from Massachusetts, and that was Western Massachusetts. Ben Killam thinks this year in particular, there were not a lot of acorns and not a lot of beech nuts, and that's a really important food for the bears, especially before they go into hibernation, into that. Overall, there are issues with bears going to people's properties, and when bears go near people, there's often conflicts, and it doesn't work out well for the bears.
Which leads to like some of the bans on feeding wildlife that we see across Western Mass.
Taking your bird feeders, don't leave your garbage out, all this stuff that you hear about trying to not attract the bears, right?
And if you raise chickens, install an electric fence. It's not that complicated. It's not that hard.
You'll hear more about raising chickens tomorrow on the show on our local hero farmer spotlight. Nancy Cohen, senior reporter for New England Public Media. Quick pop quiz about pop culture bears. Do you watch the television show The Bear?
I have not.
It's excellent, and I'm hoping to get Ebon Moss-Bacharach, who's the star of that show and is from Amherst, on the show.
It's traumatic if you've worked in kitchens.
You have to choose between your favorite fictional bears between these pairs, Nancy Cohen. Fozzie Bear versus Yogi Bear.
Yogi.
Okay. Incorrect. Smokey Bear
There's
versus...
no wrong answer to this.
Oh, yeah, right. This is just opinion. Right, I forgot. Smokey the Bear versus the Berenstain Bears.
Smokey.
Yes, because only who can prevent forest fires?
You.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh. Winnie the Pooh versus Paddington Bear.
Oh, that's a hard one.
That is a hard one.
Yeah, I might have to go with the Paddington animation that Paddington did with the Queen.
All right, there you have it from our bear expert in the New England Public Media News Office's senior reporter, Nancy Cohen. If you're interested in wildlife stuff, I know there's a Beaver Institute in Southampton, and I'm hoping to have them on the show in the next couple of weeks. So maybe we'll have you as part of that conversation.
That would be very cool.
That would be super fun.
Thank you for having me on the show.
It's our pleasure.
Our pleasure. Coming up, we'll hear from Mr. Nick, who is singing about bears right now, and Mr. Liam about the monthly First Sunday Kids music series happening at the Parlor Room in Northampton.
And bad versus badly. Which way is the most correct way to say it when you're feeling bad or badly?
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM.
Oh yeah, I have heard that. I just haven't. You're not doing it in the way that would remind me what it is.
Backup plan to my backup plan to
see,
back up my backup plan.
If you did it like that, I would be like, oh yeah, now I remember what you're talking about.
Ooh, I got a backup plan to the backup plan to back up my backup plan.
Supposedly, Andre 3000 is having new music coming out.
I'll believe it when I see it, because he's off being a vegan in the woods, and more power to him.
Remember he showed up on a Super Bowl commercial and everyone was like, is that Andre 3000? It was really weird. It was amazing though.
That's because seeing him now is much like encountering a Sasquatch. Speaking of which, that reminds me that I need to give you your sausage.
Why did that remind you of it though?
Because I started calling Billy Tower the sausage Sasquatch to Mark Latanzi.
Got it. There's a river listener who has historically delivered pepperoni to me at the Green River Festival.
Sometimes sorpressata when we're really lucky, but this isn't one of the lucky years.
For many years. And then last year or the year before also started delivering it to Khalees. Or we would split it. And now Khalees, he gave it directly to Khalees, but to now split it with me. So.
Oh,
wow.
We've passed the pepperoni-shaped baton. That's gross. I love it.
It's not when we think about it in context of sausage Sasquatch.
Yeah.
But when we take it out of that context, like, we don't want pepperoni batons to be passed.
Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster. I feel badly that we often get off topic on this particular segment where you are trying to make sure that we are learning everything we need to know from our fair dictionary in Springfield, Merriam-Webster, and I frequently derail the conversation. Do I feel badly?
No.
Not really. Do I feel bad?
Also no.
Also no. But which one of those is more correct if there is such a thing in the English language, according to you, Emily Brewster, and Merriam-Webster?
Well, it's complicated, Monte.
Oh.
It's complicated.
Like my relationship status on social media. No, just also see, I've derailed it again.
Right. Feel is a verb. So you can say, I feel so badly about correcting your grammar. And the badly kind of makes sense because it comes right after a verb, the verb feel. And what usually comes in that spot, what frequently comes in that spot is an adverb. And adverbs frequently end in ly.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel badly about correcting your grammar. But we also do hear, I feel bad about correcting their grammar, right? And the thing that's going on here is that feel is a very particular kind of verb. It is not your everyday action verb. It is actually something called a linking verb. Linking verbs are also called copulas or copulative verbs. You can do with that what I know you will.
I
Yes,
like to
okay.
feel when I'm using my copulative verbs, and I don't
The linking
feel
verbs
badly.
are not.
I was just going to make a dumb joke about logs, and you went straight to copulas.
You said it, word nerd.
This is grammar, okay? Blame the linguists.
Okay. Okay.
So the only function of a linking verb is to connect the subject of the sentence or clause with the words that describe or identify that subject. And the words that do that identifying or describing are either adjectives or adjective phrases or noun phrases. There's a small number of linking verbs in English. Among them are some of the most common words that we use, though. Be, become, seem, and all of the sensory verbs like smell, look, taste, sound, feel.
Mm-hmm.
So each of these sensory verbs can also be used as an action verb, right? Like, I smell the pie that has just come out of the oven. But then you can also say, the pie smells good. The pie smells good. Smell is now being a linking verb. It's just connecting those two parts of the sentence. It's no longer about the action of my nose, really.
So if you're subjected to dad jokes, like Khalees is or other people, and somebody says, how do you feel? And then the dad joke person says, with my fingertips, you can say, no, I mean it as a linking verb. And then they won't know what to do and they'll vanish in a cloud of smoke. Most dad jokers are not that smart.
That is such a good strategy.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love your optimism that people who tell dad jokes will go away if you stump them.
Trust me, I know.
Yes, it's not the case. Don't use this as a ray of hope.
I clearly have more fondness for people who tell dad jokes than either of you do.
No, I have fondness for it or I wouldn't keep doing it.
Yes.
All right, so we can think about this. It's, I think, helpful to think about this. Linking verbs are really pretty abstract. But if you think about, like, those pies smell delicious, we don't say those pies smell deliciously because that would suggest that the pies are able to somehow do smelling by themselves and that they can do it in a way that is delicious, which does not make sense.
No.
We don't say like the pies look we say the pies look perfect, not the pies look perfectly. Right, then they're like peering into the distance and they can see very well or something.
Yeah, you've
That doesn't make
anthropomorphized
sense.
these pies in a way that makes me think of Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett's meat pies.
No.
Yeah.
With the price of meat, what it is, when you get it, if you get it.
Ha!
Good, you got it.
But I want to stop
Right, so we
thinking
can say
about
like, you know, the crust doesn't taste too sweet. We wouldn't say the crust doesn't taste too sweetly.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
The chewing sounds loud. You wouldn't say the chewing sounds loudly.
Those crunching noises pervading the air.
Yes, Mr. Todd.
But you can say, I feel bad you didn't get any pie. But we can also say, I feel badly that you didn't get any pie.
Are you saying that both of them are equally weighted in regards to proper usage?
Yeah, they are both fully established. Yes. They are both completely fully established. And it's strange that they are, because it doesn't even need to be taught. Now, you could argue that people who say, I feel badly that you didn't get any pie, are actually doing something called hypercorrection, right? Where they are thinking that, oh, I have this understanding of this rule that I was taught, and I know that I need to attach an ly here. But why don't they do it for any of these other sensory verbs? Because they don't.
So this is an outlier, feel and bad, or feel and badly. Everything else follows the proper words that you were describing before with the pies that Mrs. Lovett made.
Right.
Have a little priest.
Is it really good?
Sir, it's too good, at least.
I mean, we're hoping that she's not making pies because she has a terrible supply chain.
Yes.
But is that equality of how those sentences work a new thing? Or is this kind of out of the late 20th, early 21st century movement, slight away kind of from adverbs?
No, this is a long-standing discrepancy in kind of how linking verbs typically function in this particular function. Now, it may actually be tied to kind of interesting things about the word bad. So in the 19th century, bad was thought to only mean somewhat evil. And so people were advised to use feel badly when they were talking about physical health and emotional states. And so badly maybe took on this broader use, this greater applicability, because bad had a more narrow meaning at the time.
And then Michael Jackson changed that all?
And the whole world has to answer right now to the tell you once again.
I don't know. I mean, and then you've got feel good, and you've got James Brown, right?
Right. Well, this is what it brings me to next, because the other big debate is, oh, how are you doing today? Good. Oh, are you somehow an upstanding citizen that is benevolent to all humans? As opposed to well. So it's almost the actual opposite end of bad and badly.
Well, I always assume that like good is like more sentiment and well is like health.
I always just say good because I feel really pretentious, like I'm overcorrecting if I say well.
I always say all right so that I just land in the middle and no one asks me further questions.
I like that. I also like answering good and you in a kind of sarcastic way, no matter what. Like if somebody
making it into one word, good and you.
Anticipating somebody's small talk before they even begin just by saying, good and you. Or if somebody says from the stage, how y'all doing out there? I will yell, good and you! And they never answer me. But should we be using good or goodly or well?
I feel like you could only really use goodly if we are in a 17th century New England colony.
Yeah, right.
Well, the fact is that individual speakers have their own feelings about what these mean. You both just pointed out a distinction that you make internally. And what you say is grammatical. Lots of other people are saying it. It is fully established. It is in written, edited text. And each of them, for Khalees, you're saying that those two function a little differently. And you are not alone in that. There are other people who make that distinction between feeling well as being about bodily health or mental health, right? But about being health, and feeling good about being kind of like how your mood is, or like how things are going. Mm-hmm. The shifts in meaning aren't always apparent to the observer, but they sometimes are intentional by the speaker. And in a case like this, they're both so fully established that you can whatever feels good.
Yeah, or whatever feels well.
That seems to go back to your cupola thing.
Francis Ford?
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
Yeah, the one you shouldn't touch.
Well, right. So they're not always interchangeable because if whatever feels good there is an adjective. Well, yeah, it's still the copula, but well does not work there, which is interesting.
Well, I hope everybody feels good and well and not bad or badly.
Are using their words in a goodly fashion?
Yes, Goody Smith.
Oh, no.
I am.
You're going to give me a giant A to wear around the office.
For awesome!
We'll give you an F and I get a 4. We'll just walk around and see what happens.
Feel so bad. Feel like a ball game on a rain.
Next week, we'll ask the word nerd a question from our engineer, Betsy Langto, about the Royal Order of Adjectives.
Do you have a linguistic question for our word nerd, Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster in Springfield? You can email us, thefab413 at nepm.org, or text us 1-800-639-9120.
Up next, we'll hear from Mr. Nick and Mr. Liam about the monthly First Sunday Kids Music Series happening at the Parlor Room in Northampton.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM.
I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it.
Oh, hey.
I want it, I don't want it. I want it.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Did you know that there is a kids' music series happening the first Sunday of the month at the newly nonprofit venue, the Parlor Room in Northampton? And joining us, the curators of that series, the stars of the series, are Mr. Liam and Mr. Nick.
Mr. Liam.
Hey.
Liam Hurley has been a performer and educator for more than 25 years. He earned his BM in his Bachelor's of Music. I
didn't say it.
But I know you thought it, which is why I'm looking at you right now, radio listeners.
Yes.
In jazz performance from New York University, studied early childhood education at Hunter College. Liam has worked in numerous New York City-based theater productions and toured as the drummer for Josh Ritter and the Royal City Band. You know, like small accolades.
Yeah, right.
He's the co-founder of the kids' music group, the Big Littles, and performs throughout the region as Mr. Liam.
Mr. Nick is Nick Deisher, the man behind In the Nick of Time, who's built a career making fun and educational music for kids. His experience as a preschool teacher means his songs are easy to understand, and while his master's degree in music production means even adults can appreciate his well-written jams, says USA Today. When Nick merged his two interests in early childhood education and music production, it was only a matter of time before people started to take notice. First, the Television Academy awarded Nick the Mr. Rogers Memorial Scholarship. I've said a million times I want this radio to show to be Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood for grown-ups.
Hey, too many poop jokes.
Yeah, but I think kids like poop
Just
jokes,
the right amount.
and so do grown-ups.
The kids are not assigning this award.
Mr. Nick and Mr. Liam, thank you for joining us in studio. You have one of these Parlor Room Kids series happening this Sunday.
That's right.
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Sliding scale tickets, too. So we want to hear about, because you're involved with the transition of the Parlor Room into a nonprofit music venue.
That's
and some
correct.
exciting, maybe even a little scoop to introduce in regards to that.
Yeah.
But before, let's hear a song that's good for kids and their grown-ups, as our friend
All
Bill
right.
Childs, host of Spare the Rock, Spoil the Child,
Yeah.
nationally syndicated, likes to say.
Well, this song, you might have heard a little flavor. It's called I Want It, I Don't Want It. It's a song you may not know, but the feeling is universal. The quantum mechanics of wanting something and not wanting it at the exact same time. And it goes a little like this. You ready? 1, 2, you know what to do. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it. No, I don't. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it. I want a little frog, a little green frog. I want to give it a big kiss and give it a big hug. I ask my parents for the frog, they give me what I want. They put it in my hands, I don't want it anymore. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, it's slimy. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it. I want to climb a tree, a big leafy tree. Climb up to the top and see as far as I can see. I get to the top and I look to the ground. I think about falling. Hey, someone get me down! I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it. I'm acrophobic! I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it. No, 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 no. So many different things that I want to do and see. So many different places and things I ought to be. I gotta have it. And so I scream and whine. And when I finally get it, I change my mind. I want to eat sand, some gritty sand. It's not enough to hold it in my fingers in my hands. I put it on my sandwich with avocado and cheese. I take a big bite. Oh, take it away, please. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it. It's sandy. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it, I don't want it. I want it. No, I don't. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Yes, I do. Oh, I confused myself. Can I have help in the room?
Yes.
All right. Khalees, can you be I want it? You and I, 1, 2, 3, we'll say 1, 2, 3, I want it. And Monte, you and Nick, you guys will be I don't want it. 1, 2, 3, I don't want it. Right? We're going to go back and forth.
Okay.
You got it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I want it. I don't want it. 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 I want it.
That is Mr. Liam.
That's how you clear things up.
And Mr. Nick, who are curating the Parlor Room series for kids. There will be one this Sunday at the Parlor Room in Northampton. Our resident parenting expert of the Fabulous 413 right now, our engineer Betsy Langto. Does that song ring true to your experience with your daughter, Claire?
Well, she doesn't talk yet, but I would say in terms of wanting things, she wants what other people have most. That's the best thing. You could give her an identical banana, but the other kid's banana is the best banana.
Wow.
It's magical that way.
Part 2.
Happy birthday to Claire this weekend, by the way, right?
Yes, this weekend, Sunday, 1 year old.
Sunday happens to be the day the Parlor Room Kids series will be happening, 10 o'clock. What a good thing to do for a birthday party.
Oh, if you're feeling it, no pressure, but great.
So how did you... You, Mr. Liam, we mentioned Liam Hurley, have been a drummer for a national touring act who is fantastic and has a lot of roots here in the Valley, kind of getting discovered in Northampton at the Iron Horse. Josh Ritter and the Royal City Band. That means you're royalty, I suppose. Tell us about your transition into wanting to do kids music.
I toured with them for 9 years, yeah, and I had 2 children, and we were living in Brooklyn, and it got really hard to live there and have 2 kids, so we moved here, and I didn't really realize how many people were moving here from there. And this place is amazing. There's so many amazing musicians and artists, and I had done a little kids music, but I started playing at the Parent Center right downtown by the Parlor Room, and I bumped into Nick, and people said, hey, you guys should meet, and we look a lot alike. I know you can't tell that on the radio, but
I must admit, you were all both at Green River, and I remember.
And I made the mistake of going up to you and saying, "Oh, Nick, I think you sent me an email."
Oh no, yeah,
but that was my fault because I was like, Nick, who sent us the emails, right over there. Yeah. You had been there, but then you did like the old switcheroo.
Oh, yeah, we're tricky.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is though, the reason why we did wind up connecting was that I would have kids come up to my shows or be in my class and they would be like, "Oh, I saw you at the librage." I was like, "I didn't play a gig at the library." I was like, "No, I swear it was you."
Yeah. It's been really nice to work together, and I don't know, just all the same jokes, same kind of humor, and
You're not helping this differentiation thing at all.
Yeah.
No, we don't really try. We try and blend.
You just up the ante of
Try
dad
and marry
jokes
it.
by
Yeah.
75%. So
Yeah.
now, Mr. Nick Deisher, the same question for you. Tell us about how you got into kids music.
I got into kids music because when I graduated with a music degree, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I was able to teach preschool and jump in without needing a license, and so I was able to get
Did you have a
licensed.
BM?
I had a... You got it there.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm asking if he has a bachelor's.
It was a BA to be specific.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Safe.
But so I was teaching, and a lot of the things that I was trying to teach students kind of found their way into songs that I was writing and playing with them. And I remember on my first interview, I brought my guitar and played a song about a rainbow. And so now, like 20 years later, I've just been creating music and playing music and teaching, and and last like 6.5 years, been a parent myself, so that has sort of shifted like both the challenges of doing music, but also like my focus and the things that inspire me to make music. So.
And did this series come out of the series that you did during the pandemic online through the Northampton Parent Center?
Yeah, it's pretty organic that way. I mean, boy, I feel like every few months, the valley just collapses when I meet a new person who also works over there, and you're like, oh, you're the guy who does that. Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, through the Parent Center, I started meeting folks like Chris Freeman at the Parlor Room, and the hope is to build something every Sunday. You know, Sunday's kind of a dead spot for the little ones, and 10 a.m. You know, you've been up a while. If you've got a little one,
Oh yeah, it's almost nap time.
It's
again.
almost nap time. We're trying to inch it forward.
Engineer Betsy Cordes is nodding her head vigorously.
10 a.m. is already pushing it a little
Keep
late.
them up
so-
a little late, tire them out.
Yeah, we send them off to nap time like perfect nap time. They are tired from the 10-second dance parties.
Sometimes we up it to 20 seconds.
That's
we
true.
Oh wow, if you're trying to push the outer limits of these children's abilities.
How do you contain that much fun?
Yeah.
On my 40th birthday party, I tried to do a 40-second dance party, and it didn't work out.
Well, we've heard about the 10, the 20, and the 40-second dance party. We're going to actually experience one of those in the studio in a little bit. And we'll also hear some more music from Mr. Liam and Mr. Nick, who are curating the Parlor Room Kids series, one of which will happen this Sunday, the first Sunday of every month. Claire's birthday, July 2nd at 10 a.m. at the newly nonprofit Parlor Room in Northampton, and we will hear about the newly nonprofit status and Mr. Liam's involvement in that coming up next on the Fabulous 413.
Iguanodon, pteranodon, but don't forget what's next. You've got velociraptor.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Oh, more bear songs.
That's the Bear Went Over the Mountain song we played earlier when we were talking to NEPM's Nancy Cohen about bears.
Yeah. We're here with Mr. Nick and Mr. Liam, who have started a children's music series at the Parlor Room in Northampton.
Masonic Street.
Yes.
First Sunday.
First Sunday.
Which is this Sunday.
In fact,
This Sunday,
it is.
10 a.m.
Make your plans. The Parlor Room has just moved to nonprofit status.
Correct.
How is that going?
I think very well. I'm rather new to it, but there's a lot of energy and excitement around there.
And you are officially involved.
Yes, I have just accepted. I am going to be the director of children and teen programming. We're trying to get some music lessons going, some workshops.
For those who don't know about the Parlor Room, it is the de facto home of Signature Sounds Records, which created the Green River Festival, had Josh Ritter on it for an early part, who Mr. Liam played with, and then they were running a concert venue there, but wanted to kind of step away. I think the pandemic had a lot to do with that. Live music has been really tricky. But then some folks came together and said, we would like to take over this room and run it as a nonprofit. Who, besides you, Liam Hurley, is working on that?
I have to give all praise to Chris Freeman, who's directing it all. He's really, sort of got the energy going. He's pulling a lot of people in who can, I don't know, it's the Fabulous 413. There's just so many people here.
Is it?
There's so many people here who want to bring their energy to it, and he's very good at directing that, and he's pulled me in to help bring families in. You know, there's so many talented adults who want to experience music there, but there's also their children, and it's pretty exciting. We're gonna have some series coming in the fall, I hope, and the hope is that we get this children's series going. You know, Sunday morning is a really tricky time, like I said, but
you could do it on Saturday mornings if it doesn't work out, like when the cartoons used to be on.
It's true.
Or if you do it at 6 in the morning, I bet you there'll be tons of parents who'll be thrilled to get
That's
out of
true.
the house and get them
Be
back
I
to
don't
bed
know if
soon.
you would be as thrilled,
Yeah,
but
no.
I'm sure that they would be thrilled.
Right.
I love doing what I do.
It's nice to have a show done by noon, you know?
That's
It's
true.
like, yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of your class, not classes, your music series, you're both here with ukuleles, but you play other instruments as well. But when you bring out the ukes, do the kids who also play ukes show up with their instruments and want to play with you?
Show up. We bring a lot of shaker eggs to our shows.
Yeah, there's
And-
always ways to jump in. I
and-
have had a kid or two bring a uke to a show.
And rock along?
I've signed a ukulele before.
Whoa,
yeah, that was pretty
that's some
cool.
rock
Yeah,
star. Yeah.
That means you've made it.
I
Totally.
guess so. Yeah,
I love
Totally.
ukulele. Well, shall we hear another song from Mr. Liam and Mr. Nick, who are curating this kids' music series
Sure.
this first Sunday of the month at the Parlor Room in Northampton?
Should we do Down by the Bay Extreme Animal version?
Sounds pretty good to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Everybody knows Down by the Bay. It's classic. We've roped in our gracious hosts. We're gonna rhyme weird animals. Normally they're easy animals like dog, whale, stuff like that. We're gonna start with axolotl.
Okay.
But,
just to show what kind of a level we're going for.
But Monte and Khalees, think of something, a hard-to-rhyme animal.
I got you.
I got one, too.
Okay.
Down by the bay.
Down by the bay.
Where the watermelons grow.
Where the watermelons grow.
Back to my home.
Back to my home.
I dare not go.
I dare not go.
For if I do.
For if I do.
My mother will say.
My mother will say.
Have you ever seen an axolotl? Sitting on the beach, having a pina colada, and just going full-on relaxolotl. Down by the bay, down by the bay.
Down by the bay.
Where the watermelons grow.
Where the watermelons grow.
Back to my home.
Back to my home.
I dare not go.
I dare not go.
For if I do.
For if I do.
My mother will say.
My mother will say.
Have you ever seen a capybara? Capybara. Talking about his favorite bears and whether it's Paddington, Smokey, or Yogi Berra. Down by the bay, down by the bay. Where the watermelons grow.
Where the watermelons grow.
Back to my home.
Back to my home.
I dare not go.
I dare not go.
For if I do.
For if I do.
My mother will say.
My mother will say.
Have you ever seen a
duck-billed platypus?
Oh, a duck-billed platypus. That's a really tricky one.
Well, and then he drove over some like sharp nails, and then his tire was platypus.
Down by the bay, down by the bay.
Down by the bay.
Where the watermelons grow.
Where the watermelons grow.
Back to my home.
Back to my home.
I dare not go.
I dare not go.
For if I do.
For if I do.
My mother will say.
My mother will say.
Have you ever seen Mr. Nick and Mr. Liam playing at the Parlor Room?
Go on out and see him.
Down by the bay.
That is
Nicely done.
Yeah, Mr. Liam and Mr. Nick, Liam Hurley and Nick Deisher, who are curating the Parlor Room Kids series, as I mentioned, this Sunday, the first Sunday of the month. It's a series that's taken off, so if you've got kids and want something fun to do with them on a sliding scale this weekend, $5 to $15 is what they're saying the sliding scale is, which is really fun. And Mr. Nick, we mentioned before that you won the Mr. Rogers Memorial Scholarship.
That is correct.
From the Television
2007.
Academy. Tell me what this is.
So I was going to grad school at the University of Miami, and I saw a posting for it on one of the big boards that they have, like professional development opportunities and things like that. And I applied. At that point, In the Nick of Time wasn't really a thing yet. It was
your band.
Yeah, my band. Sorry. And I was releasing music under my own name. But I went back to grad school so I could learn about producing and kind of have my own tools to build my own music. And they liked what I was doing, and they felt like I was kind of carrying that same sort of spirit of Mr. Rogers. They really loved the song that we do called Let's Hear It for the Band. They felt like the way that I connected with, like the way music is infused with emotion and how it affects people. They really appreciated that. And that was the grant that started my studio, and that allowed me to release my first album in 2007.
All thanks to Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, my patron saint, yeah.
We have to have a 10-second dance party.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Let's do it. Okay, what do we do?
You ready? You just dance any way you want, safely, for 10 seconds. But when I stop, you stop. 10-second dance party! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I can imagine after you hit 40 having a 40-second dance party.
A little long.
It is a little long.
Could be.
You got to know your audience.
Really problematic. Ages recommended for the kid? Betsy wants to know to come to this thing on Sunday?
Children of all ages.
Children of all ages.
Yeah, 0 to 92. We follow the Pixar model. We try and make it fun for the kids and the adults. But yeah, definitely the 0s to 8s.
The 7-year-olds like our music. They may not tell their friends, though.
Oh, yeah.
I've been there. Cool for your school.
Yeah. Mr. Liam and Mr. Nick Deisher and Liam Hurley, who are curating the series at the Parlor Room. It's this Sunday.
And there will be links in our show notes.
Yeah, tomorrow on the Fabulous 413, Butcheria is not a real Italian word, but Corsello Butcheria is a real butcher shop in East Hampton and coming to Springfield.
We'll talk to Vincent from the Butcheria, as well as Carl Pearl from Underline Farm in East Hampton about being neighborly in commerce and community and poultry.
More music with Michi Wiyanko and Aisha Burns from the Antenna Cloud Farm Music Walk taking over downtown Great Falls this Saturday.
And our weekly check-in with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern. Got a question for him? The fab413@nepm.org is where you should email or text 1-800-639-9120.
Our director is Tony. Meetings eventually come for us all done.
Our engineer is Betsy. Baby is motoring. There is no price for fight. Lenko.
Our technical team is Bart, blending in the wildest downtown. Now, never mind. We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.